Merry time of day. If you were here for the previous episode, you already know that we have a good length of beautiful rainbow warp left over, and that seeks a fresh new project to embellish. And I have been working on something for a while. It just so happens that I have inherited some embroidery projects, and one of them I just know that I am not going to finish. So this one we will cannibalize for a section of embroidery canvas. Embroidery canvas is typically a pretty expensive textile since it needs to be woven so accurately. You may be similarly fortunate in your quest if you peruse your local secondhand shops or yard sales. But if you cannot find embroidery canvas, you can also work on plain woven fabric. You just have to decide how many threads in the fabric, such as 4 or 6, represents one square in the pattern. It may come out a bit squat or elongated, but it'll still be cute. We are doing some blackwork embroidery, but in color. I am really excited for this, as I adore blackwork embroidery for its repetitive, meditative nature, and I have wanted to do a rainbow gradient one for quite some time. Some of the examples from others online are just beyond stunning. This pattern that I have worked on was actually a contender for what I was going to do with my hands for the Crafts as Resistance video, but it ultimately lost out in favor of the Hope pattern that ended up being in the video. I still loved this design though. There was just something about it that spoke to me. We will start by marking an approximate center with a contrasting thread, dividing our canvas into 4. We will do this right next to the holes in the embroidery canvas so they do not get tangled in with our embroidery threads. The pattern has similar markings to help us get started. This aids both in centering our work on our fabric, but also how to place our first stitches relative to the pattern. Next, we are going to define our outline. And I had better make sure I have enough black thread for this. We will separate out 3 strands of black embroidery floss. The heart is closest to the center and a good place to get started. After we have our heart, we can count out from it to place our cat outline, which, yes, is a trace of Fluffy Embla, the youngest of our 2 voids. Now, I don't know about you, but as a child, I got told that the backside of your embroidery should look just like the front. And as an autistic child, I took that literally, to many a frustration at my own inability to do so. So I'm here to tell you that what they meant was that the back should look neat and tidy. They weren't being literal, much as the phrase, at least in Norwegian, is certainly one that it is difficult not to take literally. With our outline established, we can remove our guideline threads again. And by reducing our number of embroidery floss strands from 3 to 2, we get a thinner line for our text and our pattern. Now, the real fun begins. From our frayed warp, let us start by pulling out 2 strands of purple floss. The purple and blue of the warp were especially prone to tearing when we were tablet weaving, so we are passing it through some beeswax for strength. I'll start by defining the bottom line of our purple sections, so we do not accidentally go past it in our crafting enthusiasm. Reusing the last bits of a weaving warp like this is such an ingenious frugal win, and I cannot in any way take credit for it. I started placing the last length of silk warp in my embroidery box because I just couldn't bear to throw away the precious strands, and people in the past were no different. We've encountered at least one written reference to waist embroidery silk in Instructions for Patchwork by J.F. Ingalls in 1884 as the best and cheapest option to use for needlework. And as best as I am able to figure out, this waist silk appears to be referring to the last bit of warp left over from the weaving mills when they've been weaving fabric that was sold and distributed for needlework purposes. Did I mention how much I enjoy blackwork embroidery? There is just something so soothing and rewarding about learning the ways of a pattern and seeing it grow steadily under your hands. It would have been fun in twice the size with twice the detail as well, but I'm hoping that the modest size will make it more accessible to enthusiasts of all kinds. If you are wondering about the meaning behind the text for the voids, it started as a reference to the cat and an idea of like, do it for those who come after us and those who are dependent on us, you know, with regards to sustainability and taking care of the environment, but it didn't quite work for that for me, sort of. It may have been a little bit too vague or a little bit too general or a little bit too something. I liked it, but I didn't feel like I had the right fit for the words, if that makes sense. Like I liked the design, but I wasn't sure about the message of it. But once I turned the original blackwork design I had been working on into a vibrant rainbow gradient, the whole design took on a whole new meaning for me. I was reminded of the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus and their devastating 1993 photo, where they had over 100 people clad in black facing away from the camera to represent how many of their members had passed away due to the AIDS epidemic, while only 7 are dressed in white and facing the photographer, the only founding members to still be alive at the time. It is just such a heart-wrenchingly brilliant way to depict the losses of the AIDS epidemic suffered especially by the gay community. Our brains are not very good at seeing or remembering voids that should have been filled, especially after it has been, a long period of time has passed. And I think this image kind of reminds us of that in a very powerful way. These days we have other voids of many different kinds, violent hate crime that leads to loss of life, but also the quiet loss of life of someone who feels like they cannot possibly go on any longer. Trans kids and adults with no support network, bi-erasure, conversion therapy, finding no place to belong. You know, it's just an endless spiral just for people trying to live their lives as authentically as possible. So this embroidery is for those voids especially. All our friends and community members who should have been. When it comes to displaying our work, you are of course free to do as you please. But I am fetching this vintage frame from a second-hand shop. It could use a bit of a scrub, but otherwise I think it is very cute. We can use the glass in our frame to cut our canvas to size. Although I admit I am loath to see that I could have used a canvas about half this size. And I don't know if this is strictly necessary, but just for protection, I am running a line of glue along our edges, hoping that this will protect our work from fraying too much. Thank you for watching this video about my For the Voids embroidery. I thought, because I've been talking about For the Void as, you know, a thing of loss and love at the same time, for our community and for our friends, I wanted that to be the note we close this on. I'm going to try to auction this off somehow. Is eBay still the thing for that? And we are going to donate the proceeds of that auction to a LGBTQA plus organization of some kind. We'll figure it out. I'll make an announcement in the Discord about where it ends up when it is all done and done. I have no idea what to expect from this, but hopefully someone will want it in all its handmade imperfect glory. I've also been working hard behind the scenes to offer you this little black work embroidery as a pattern on the website. not just the original blackwork and the rainbow pride version. I've been making a trans version, asexual, bisexual, non-binary, you know, just as many flags as I could think of so that you can make whichever version speaks to you. The website is still running on pay what you can philosophy. So while I would be extremely grateful if you left a tip to help me keep the lights on, you're the best. But also, please do not feel sad or guilty if that is not in your budget right now. You can still download it for free 99. Keeping things accessible was really important to me when I set up the shop, so really, I mean it when I say that I want you to be able to create this if you want to, regardless of your budget. I actually hope someday that we may be able to put aside 1% or so of the profits from the shop into a donation account that goes to charities and back to the community in some way. But I'll be honest with you, I need to be able to pay my own bills first, so it'll probably be a while. One day though. All the links you need can be found in the description box below, as usual. Is it arrogant to say that I hope to see more of these in the wild someday? Thank you again for watching this. Thank you for being here. Please take care of each other.